British Empire spread its wings across the Caribbean in the early 19th century and joined the wagon of successful sugarcane industry. African slaves were fulfilling the need of plantation workers. Slowly, it became difficult to retain the slaves for farm work as they started escaping from the plantations. In 1833, slavery was abolished by the British government. It posed a huge challenge to the plantation owner, so they requested for workers from the British colonies. They tried indentured workers from China and Portugal, but it didn't work out. So I thought India would be a better choice because of its climate and agriculture background. The laborers were brought under a 5-year contract with the choice to return to their homeland after the contract ended. Indentureship was a new form of slavery. Indian workers were recruited and brought as indentured workers and were called coolies, which was a derogatory name and was banned in later years. The British allowed only farmers to migrate. Many people, such as priests, were not allowed. Sometimes people chose to go because of unemployment, hope of getting rich, drought, failed crops, famine, and sometimes they were lured, cheated, or coerced to join. These workers were mostly from Hindi-speaking belt of India, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, and Jharkhand. This is Sri Lakshmi Narayan Mandir, an Indo-Guyanese temple. I met Pandit Jagannath on December 22, 2015, the founder and head priest of this temple. His father moved to British Guyana in 1915 in one of the last ships in the Caribbean. Pandit Ji was born in Guyana in 1934 and moved to the United States in 1977. He was kind enough to answer my questions. About the recruitment choice, he said,
they were not taking pundits because before when they were bringing pundits, the pundits were not able to work because they were not accustomed to working. So when the British government get to realize that, they said anybody who is a Brahmana, don't recruit them. So my father had to change his name so that he can get recruited.
Author Gayatri Bahadur's great-grandmother was brought to British Guyana in 1903. While researching, Bahadur found the emigration pass of her grandma. She visited the places where the workers lived in part of a plantation that was called the N-word yard. So there were sort of military-style barracks, no privacy. They worked very long hours for little pay. She has written The Coolie Woman, The Odyssey of Indenture, based on her findings. I had a telephone conversation with Mr. Bikramjit Udichan, a retired teacher of Poinciana High School, Poinciana. He wrote an essay for me based on the questions I had. The story of the Indians of Guyana. About the living conditions, his words were, overall the system proves that over 1 million people were secretly enslaved. Living conditions were bad, where many families, men, women, and children were living, cooking, eating, and sleeping in long houses called logis. There was no wall to separate the families. Outer houses, called latrines, were made over a drainage trench, where a number of compartments were made and people excrete their feces. This system was disgraceful and was compared to that of the N-word slaves. Even before people reached their destination, they had to go through the harsh conditions of the voyage, where many would succumb to the dysentery, loneliness and seasickness and abuse. Working conditions were no different either. After the months of travel, they were lodged poorly in depots before they were placed and before they could recover from the long journey to the distant country. The workers were pushed to work in the plantations. The working hours used to be very long and wages were low. Poor health had no chance to get any better. As soon as children were 5 years old, they were supposed to work with their parents. An ex-indentured worker remembered, "We were whipped for small mistakes. If you woke up late, that is, later than 3 a.m., you got whipped. No matter what happened, whether there was rain or thunder, you had to work. We were here to work and work we had to do. Otherwise, we were abused and beaten up." When the indentured period was over, the workers were offered a piece of land to cultivate. Many returned to India and many did not or could not.
So he bought a house in a place called Newtown Kitty in Den, British Guiana, just out of Georgetown, out of the city. And we started planting a garden and so on. And the moment we heard the ship come in, we said, "We are okay, we are getting ready to go now," and he died. Luckily, he died on one hand. Good thing he died. If he died on the ship, who would have taken care of us? So I cried. I felt I was most grieved not because of his death. To tell you the truth, I was grieving because he used to speak highly of India. That's a very great country, and he wanted to go back.
When the respective new countries got their independence, racial tensions began. Another problem was due to their religions. Migrated Indians were dominantly Hindus and some Muslims. Africans were Christians and were more likely to learn English, which enabled them to have better representation in government jobs. Although this situation fired up the Indians to educate themselves, and now they are highly placed in the fields of teaching, medicine, etc. But insecurities forced them to migrate to other countries.
When British Guiana, it was one of the best countries in my opinion, right? And when I was there, I never thought I would move to America. I love the country. It was like now I can tell you it was like India because when I visited India and think about Guyana, just like that, very nice. It's after the politicians took over, after British handed over to became so bad that I had to move, left my country, left my job as a teacher, as assistant principal for college, and come to this country. Before that, before when British were ruling, it was peaceful, good, and it was like India itself. And so the lifestyle there was very nice, very family oriented and so on.
When ship after ship after ship arrived in the Caribbean, they didn't just enhance the workforce for the colonial plantations, but they also brought culture, language, dialects, music, songs, festival, food, and religion. Their new homelands acknowledged them by declaring national holidays on their arrival day and Diwali. They followed their family-oriented lifestyle, which helped them to make new families, some by blood relations and some just by the company. This helped them to survive and evolve, and mark their presence in the world ethnicity as their own identity, Indo-Caribbean.